Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special edition of Black Market Leadership. I'm Kevin Black, your host, and today we are going to dive into I think, one of the best science fiction books out there, Dune, Frank Herbert's Dune. And I'm really excited about this because, leadership books don't have to be your primary source of professional development. Believe it or not, even fiction can play a critical role, because fiction gives you concrete examples about people, behavior, strategies, and leaders, and they're all wrapped in exciting stories. They're really engaging. And this is especially true of science fiction. So I have reread Frank Herbert's Dune twice, and I am preparing now. Well, I'm not preparing. I'm about to go over this book with you, because besides just the fascinating read, it's just a great read. It's an easy read, even despite a lot of the esoteric terminology. Dune has something that I think a lot of business books don't have. And what is that? Critical examples of strategy and leadership. Critical examples. It's almost like leadership and strategy in practice. So what is Dune? In effect, Dune is the story of a young duke, Paul Muad'did, who was forced into exile on the desert planet Arrakis, which, by the way, is the most important planet in the universe for its natural resource, spice. Well, Paul unwittingly becomes the leader of its indigenous people, the Fremen, all of whom are inching toward a global jihad against the exploitative empire and other houses of the universe. It is a fantastic read. It is a very fun read, but man, there are so many great lessons in Dune. And the fact that Frank Herbert, when he wrote this in 1965, man, he weaves together philosophy, relationships, behaviors, strategy, politics, and of course, leadership. So in this video, we're going to go over some really important nuggets, some really important quotes that I've pulled out from the book. And we're going to dive into them, and I'm going to show you some lessons of leadership that I'm pretty confident you're not going to get from a lot of leadership coaches or even a lot of leadership books today. So with that, strap in. Let's do this. Let's learn the leadership lessons from Frank Herbert's Dune. Why you exist as a leader. He thought of the power he wielded, the old men who sent their sons to him to be trained in the weirding way of battle, the old men who listened to him now in council and followed his plans, the men who returned to pay him that highest Fremen compliment. Your plan worked, Muad'did. Contrary to so much modern leadership literature that's out there right now, which all seems to focus almost exclusively on people and relationships, Dune reminds us that success as leaders ultimately comes down to accomplishing the mission. Yes, it's not just people, but it's accomplishing your mission with taking care of your people. And interestingly enough, we also see that leaders are more than just persuaders or influencing people to do something. It's a combination of influencing others while planning, while managing people and personalities, while strategizing, even helping, even with decision making. So the lesson here is that leaders, if you're going to be effective, you have to learn how to balance the two pillars of leadership, which are mission and people. Not just people, but it's mission and people. And what do I mean by that? Mission means accomplishing your assignment. Think about it. Why do you exist as a leader? Because there's something there to accomplish with your team. That's what accomplishing the mission is. Now, with your people, you have to take care of your people. Why? Is it just because it's the right thing to do? No, it's because if your team is a unit, think of like a military unit. You don't want to wipe away that military unit the first battle. You want to make sure that you can last throughout the war, that you can replicate success over and over and over in the long run. That's why you have to take care of people to make sure that you can accomplish that mission. And that's a really, really important lesson I think you see here in Dune. If you're interested in these two pillars here, go to the website, blackmarketleadership.com. You can sign up for free and make sure to get the downloadable PDF, which explains all these lessons. And it even goes in depth, a little more depth about mission and people. You can even see how different behaviors shape how they're either mission oriented or people oriented. When to be a leader. What is important for a leader is that which makes him a leader. It is the needs of his people. Dune reminds us that you don't always have to be the leader of a team. In fact, you could even say that leadership is contextual, that it's almost like it's based on the principles of supply and demand. If an opportunity rises to take a leadership position, you can take it, or you don't have to. Look, some people don't want to be leaders, and that's absolutely fine, but some people do. I think here the most important thing that you have to keep in mind is that you have to be able to differentiate leadership as an ends versus leadership as a means. Let me explain. If you want to be an effective leader, you have to have identified your purpose in life, your productive purpose. When I say productive, that means creating something, doing something with your mind. If you have a productive purpose, what you're going to find is that leadership is a means. It provides you the opportunities to demonstrate your talent. And it also comes with risks. I mean, think about it. You are responsible for the success or the failure of your team. So if you have a productive purpose, then you'll see leadership as a positive that, if it comes up, you could take it or you don't have to. But again, it's a means to your purpose. Now, though, if you don't have a productive purpose, and I see this with a lot of people, then sometimes you'll see leadership as an ends. And what I mean is people want to be leaders. Why? Because they feel it's an altruistic endeavor, that they just feel that people will respect them for being the shepherd of others. Sometimes when you read about leaders today, it almost reads like, leaders are social workers, that they're responsible for lifting people up and helping them actualize their potential. Well, that might be true of your team, but that's not necessarily true of all of humanity. If you have a job, if you have a higher calling or whatever it is, you might have responsibilities to the people you work with, but not necessarily the entire world. But without a productive purpose, and you see leadership as an ends, sometimes people see it as an opportunity for control, to just control people, for control's sake. Sometimes they see leadership as just relationships for relationships' sake. But whatever it is, it's not about achieving their productive purpose. So if you know your purpose, then you'll see leadership as a means to an ends. And if it's just an ends, I think you're going to run into some real challenges and probably disappointments later on. Your return on investment as a leader is to effectively navigate and manage uncertainty. A Bene Gesserit axiom came to Jessica's mind. Survival is the ability to swim in strange water. Only in this way of swimming in strange water can leaders effectively adapt to changing conditions. Think about this. What makes leaders strong? It's their ability to navigate uncertainty, to manage the chaos, which is inevitable. And this is a really important point for leadership. Chaos is inevitable. Why? Because there's always a gap between expectations and reality. If I was to ask you, how long would it take you, let's say, to drive to your nearest city? For me, I say 20 minutes, but I don't know what's out there. I don't know if there's a car accident. I don't know if the cops are out there. I don't know if a telephone pole fell down. I don't know about the inclement weather that's about to come and slow everything down. Those natural forces, those things that affect us negatively are called friction. And what's important to this quote is, if you look at Dune, especially Arrakis, look at the elements of friction. We have a thing called external friction. These are the forces outside the characters. Look at the sandstorms. Look at the sandworms. Look at the inhospitable climate, just the lack of available water, the fear of losing moisture. These are all forces which slow both the Fremen and the Harkonnens and even the Atreides. Any people on the planet are all subject to these. And those are neutral forces. They don't They don't pick. They don't discriminate. They hit everyone. But there are also deliberate forces against you. In the book, look, the houses of the Landsraad, especially the Harkonnens. Look at the war against the Atreides. Look at the Emperor. Look at the Guild. These are all forces which slow Paul down. And again, there are deliberate forces out there in the world. Your competition, specifically. And finally, there's internal friction. These are the forces internal to the team, internal to the organization, which affect performance. Think about all the rules, all the age-old rules that the Fremen follow. You have leaders challenging one another for supremacy, and they'll fight, sometimes to the death. And you lose good leadership. You lose good potential right there. Just think about the constant movement of the Fremen at nighttime on the rocks. Extremely dangerous. People could have accidents. That right there are things you could control, but they still affect you. They could slow you down. I mean, if you break your leg, what happens? You're incapacitated. That's one person out of the team that we need. So when you take all these elements together, external friction, deliberate forces against you, internal friction, you take all these things, these are, in a sense, the things that slow you down, like swimming up a current. And if you can swim in strange water and go against the current, or even with the current, if you can manage chaos, then your return on investment as a leader is, everyone sees it, it raises your value, and hopefully it'll raise your paycheck. Effective leadership demands effective thinking, which requires the acknowledgement that you can learn in the first place. For the others, we can see that Muad'did learned rapidly because his first training was in how to learn. And the first lesson of all was the basic trust that he could learn. It is shocking to find how many people do not believe they can learn, and how many more believe learning to be difficult. So much of an emphasis today in leadership is placed on charisma. The ability to evoke strong emotions of people. What about thinking? I mean, consider this. People are different in many ways in terms of their experiences, their behaviors, their values, their backgrounds, you name it. You have to communicate to them in a way that registers with them, in a way that they can understand. This is especially true if you want them to go out of their way, out of their comfort zones with times of uncertainty, and indeed even take risks. This means that you must understand your people and that you must be precise in your language. This requires thinking. And once you can clearly think, you'll be able to clearly analyze your given mission or assignment, effectively communicate it, ensure that your plan accounts for uncertainty and friction, which is inevitable. And thinking helps you focus and keep your people focused on what matters most during execution. There'll be a lot of distractions out there. You got to keep them focused. So this is not easy work. It requires reading, studying other leaders, studying other campaigns, reflecting on this information. In effect, it requires thinking. So if you want to be an effective leader, here's some questions to ask yourself before you move forward on an assignment. What is the assignment? Specifically, what does it mean? Who do you have on your team? What specifically are they good at, your people? How is your team designed? Are your people in the right place? And what's the plan? What's the strategy? Is this the correct strategy given the situation, the facts on the ground right now? You must learn to think for yourself. Once, men turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free, but that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them. We've established that leaders are first and foremost thinkers. The charisma thing, that could come later. But one of the traps you'll find in leadership really is based on our culture today. See, as a leader, you must learn to rely on experts to help you form your opinions. But you cannot fall into the trap of relying on authorities to give them to you. Experts versus authorities. I mean, consider this. When people watch TV, especially news shows with talking heads, are they taking in new information and data so they can compute it and actually, think about what the correct analysis is? Or are they just relying on the people they supposedly trust to give them their opinions? And, they feel this person is correct, so they take that opinion as it is. That kind of thinking leads to confirmation bias, and that is an enormous trap for any kind of decision making, especially for leaders. Confirmation bias, it sways your thinking. It helps you come up with the very conclusions that you've already agreed on in the first place. So, as a leader, it is incredibly important that people have confidence in you, especially during times of uncertainty. So don't be one of those people who just regurgitate other people's ideas, demonstrating you haven't thought about the problem itself or the challenge itself. People are smart. They'll see through it. Over my years of developing leaders and coaching them, I've noticed that effective and successful leaders project three different things to their teams. One is certainty in their own ability to think. Now, this doesn't mean you need an advanced degree. It just means that I have a mind. I know how to see the evidence and make a conclusion from it. That's what certainty means. Confidence is the second thing. That's the conviction in one's own ability to look out into the world and make a correct conclusion. The self-doubting leader brings up a lot of issues. And if people don't trust you, they're going to look for someone else to take charge. And the third element that a successful leader needs to project is competency. Thinking, the ability to think is one thing, but having the specialized knowledge and how to lead and how to manage teams, especially under stress, is incredibly important. So if you want to plan, you have to learn how to plan. If you want to lead, you have to learn how to lead. If you want to be an effective communicator, study, do your own due diligence, look into the matters, grasp them, learn them, and have that certainty and confidence in yourself to think, to make the conclusions, and do your homework to understand how to do it effectively in a leadership position. Learn to see what things truly are and not what they only appear to be. I will tell you something about your new name, Stilgar said. The choice pleases us. Muad'did is wise in the ways of the desert. Muad'did creates his own water. Muad'did hides from the sun and travels in the cool night. Muad'did is fruitful and multiplies over the land. Muad'did we call instructor of boys. That is a powerful base on which to build your life, Paul Muad'did. We welcome you. Midway through the novel of Dune, Paul is afforded the opportunity to choose a name of manhood among the Fremen. Remember, the indigenous people of Arrakis. This young duke, who is an expert fighter and who is on his way to leading a war against the powerful houses in the universe, he selects the name Muad'did, the Fremen name for the mouse. This small, non-threatening animal carries a powerful image in the desert because it reflects a theme running throughout the book, that of the necessity of accepting change and adapting to your environment rather than just resisting it. Consider the purpose of the Fremen leader. It's not just to lead the people to survive, but to thrive. What did the Fremen want to do with the planet of Arrakis? Do they always want a desert planet? No, they want their people to thrive with vegetation, with water. This was Kind's idea. This is the idea that they drive. This right here, this whole element of being able to see the core issue and not being distracted by non-essentials is a thing that we talk about in Black Market Leadership. It's called Thinking in Essentials. We have a whole module on it. You see, it's a very uniquely human element to see beyond the perceptual things in front of us. By seeing common denominators, that enables you to navigate different situations, work with different people who have different behaviors and different motivators and different values. It allows you to mitigate the chances of error or even the chaos and the friction that come with the different types of situations. I mean, think about this. Would you feel comfortable enough taking lessons of business and working with a hot dog stand on Wednesday and then taking those same lessons to a Fortune 10 company on Friday? You could do it, but you have to be able to not be intimidated by all the differences and see the common denominators. And if you can see the commonalities, what you're going to learn is that there are some lessons, some points of leadership which are critical and universal, and you can apply them to any company, really to a lot of situations, really almost in any country. So, what does it mean as a leader? Your ability to spot similarities despite the multitude of differences, which can be distractions, that will greatly assist you in adapting to new situations. In effect, it will help you boost your value as a leader and possibly boost your paycheck. Keep it simple for everyone involved in the mission, especially when navigating turbulent times. Give as few orders as possible, his father had told him once long ago. Once you've given orders on a subject, you must always give orders on that subject. Look, as a leader, you're going to be navigating uncertainty. There's so many different things in front of you, different people, different scenarios. Simplicity. Simplicity is key to navigating friction, fragmentation, chaos. Why? Because as humans, as really as any living animal, we can become mentally overloaded when there's too much information that comes our way. This is one of the courses that we teach in Black Market Leadership, Thinking in Essentials. You see, all living creatures have a certain mental capacity, almost like a cup that overflows with water. Once you have too much information that comes in your head, it spills out and you really just lose focus. You lose interest sometimes. And think about this. How many times have you talked to someone for over a minute and you're like, what are we even talking about? What you need to do to be successful as a leader is what Duke Leto says here. Give as few orders as possible and stay focused on the specific orders you've given. You want to drill down on the essentials and avoid the non-essentials. This is key to leading others because remember, as a leader, you're in charge of a team. You are responsible for the success and failure of your team. When the fog of war seeps in, and it always does, and it blinds us, it blurs our vision, your people have to be counted on to act on their own, sometimes without your direct supervision, without you seeing them. That means they need to retain what you've said, and they also need to retain all the other things around them. Remember, it's not just work. They have their personal lives as well. Children, family, loved ones, pets. There's a lot of things going on in these people's minds. You have to make sure that you give them enough information that hits the core essentials and that you don't mentally overload them. Identify your competitive advantage. Nothing wins more loyalty for a leader than an air of bravura, the Duke said. I therefore cultivate an air of bravura. Like businesses, armies, and even nations, people too can specialize and excel in certain areas. They become known for those certain areas and those specializations. The trick here for you as a leader is to identify yours, stick to it, and excel in it. Let your success be a motivating force for others to identify theirs and excel in theirs. So when I say competitive advantage, I'm talking about an edge, a competitive edge with other people. That means identifying the key, distinct difference among people who are similar. If you can do that, then this enables you to really excel in your talents, to have your talents really come out. Greater productivity, greater success, greater self-satisfaction, you'll be happy. Now, there are different ways to identify a competitive advantage or competitive edge. That could be obviously in your industry, but even as a leader, you could really excel in areas of, are you good at thinking, critical thinking or strategic thinking? In terms of communication, are you an effective communicator? What about cross-functional communication? Can you speak to other teams in the same way that you talk to yours? Planning, can you plan? Are you a great project planner? Are you a great strategic planner? Can you do both? And even execution. Are you good at leading others and managing stress and keeping people focused on what matters most? So those are just areas of competencies that you can look at. But there's also areas of behaviors. Remember earlier, we talked about the two pillars of leadership, people and mission, right? Well, people, are you good at bringing people together, ensuring engagement within the team? Are you good at aligning people, aligning the team, ensuring that they stay within processes? Or are you mission oriented? Are you good at the planning? That means, identifying the strategic goals and the precise metrics and timelines. Or are you all about execution, focusing on the big picture, or just identifying and hitting the key metrics? Again, all these areas are available to you. If you can identify where you excel, then that will support you in differentiating yourself among other leaders. And finally, there's one more element that you might be surprised: how we distribute our energy. There are some people who excel in starting and initiating tasks and projects. There's some people on the other end who help see those projects to completion. And there are other people who, like a pit bull, will grab onto a task or initiative and won't stop until that thing is done. So again, you have behaviors, energy distribution, competencies, even focus, the focus of your industry. Identify your competitive edge, cultivate it, excel in it. Life and success demands constant progress, energy, and action. And always, he fought the temptation to choose a clear, safe course, warning that path leads ever down into stagnation. The necessity for leaders to advance in mind, spirit, and body is clearly a theme running throughout the book Dune. As a leader, or especially an entrepreneur, your willingness to stretch yourself intellectually and even possibly physically will greatly support your professional success. Why? Competition's everywhere. Look, you're in a race. There's always new products, new services, new people, new uncertainties. You have to be able to adapt to new situations, new circumstances, new technologies. How do you do that? By learning, constant action. It's the constant pursuit of excellence in that terms of thinking, in terms of your habits, in terms of acting. Now, saying that, there's another quote you need to be conscious of. What happens if you have excessive success? Well, that can breed complacency in you and even your team. We came from Caladan, a paradise world for our form of life. There existed no need on Caladan to build on physical paradise or a paradise of the mind. We can see the actuality all around us. And the price we paid was the price men have always paid for achieving a paradise in this life. We went soft. We lost our edge. This is a really incredibly important quote here, because it really shows that excessive success can breed complacency in you and your team. And believe it or not, this quote, in my mind, brought the concept of ethics. And what I mean is your ability to identify the values that will help you survive in this world. And there's always a big debate happening in leadership today, leadership studies. You'll see people talking about humility all the time. And I cringe because I'm an advocate of Aristotle and the golden mean. And what that means is Aristotle said that in order to be a successful person, to be happy on this world, you have to have pride, because pride is an objective evaluation of yourself. I've done X, Y, and Z, no more, no less. It's the people who show excessive pride, who say they've done more than what they have actually done. He would call those people arrogant. But on the flip side, there are other people who say, well, no. Even though I've done X, Y, and Z, I'm not going to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to claim that. That's humility, and that's a deficiency. If you're going to be successful, you have to realize that this is what I've done and no more, no less. How does this go to Dune? Well, if you have pride, if you are objective, that you see the nature of the world, that things are always people are always in competition, Growth improvements are a necessity, and you have to continue to grow. You cannot become complacent. You have to realize that, I've been successful. I'm taking a breather right now, but the race is on. The race has not stopped. So you have to stay on top of new innovations and continually improve yourself. Understand the impact of behavior, culture, and values. She had quoted a Bene Gesserit proverb to him: when religion and politics travel in the same cart, the riders believe nothing can stand in their way. Their movement becomes headlong, faster, faster, and faster. These soft factors, behavior, culture, values, these soft factors are force multipliers for your team if you understand them. If your people truly believe in the cause, there is nothing they won't do for you. Also, you can count on them to act on their own, to execute their own initiative, to do what needs to be done without having you to prod them. These conditions can only serve you as a leader, but you have to realize you have to have the right kind of value, the right kind of culture, make sure the right behaviors are in place, because all these elements together, they affect the pace of the team, the tempo, the rhythm, the level of risk tolerance, and even your durability. Can your team survive the changing conditions? You might win here, but will you kill your team on the way there? Will you have a Pyrrhic victory instead of a long-term victory? Fact is, you have to answer these questions. You have to answer questions. Can we survive the forces of friction? The things that, if they don't kill you, they will wear you down to a point that you cannot effectively survive in the long term. If you can avoid these things and have the kind of culture that people want to come to work, that they enjoy what they're doing, that they're actually getting developed, then you have that religious fervor that the Fremen have to a certain extent, but that will help your people continually driving forward faster and faster and faster. In a sense, you will bring a competitive edge to your team, to your company over your competitors if you can have this kind of values and culture. If you enjoy these lessons from Dune, then please check out blackmarketleadership.com and our tailored coaching programs. Here we use the same type of methodology. We watch entertainment, specifically streaming services and movies from Netflix, Hulu, or Prime. This is your opportunity to specialize in areas which are important in your life. It could be entrepreneurship and disruption. It could be leadership and management. It could be behaviors, team dynamics, and strategy. All the things that you could bring to your career, to your team, which will improve your condition. It'll make you a better leader or manager, and hopefully it'll bring you bigger and better paychecks.